Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. The informal meeting of the Richmond City Council will now come to order. And Madam Clerk, if you would please provide the chamber evacuation announcement.
Upon activation of the emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use the exits to the left or right front of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed down 9th Street and enter the assembly area located in the former public safety building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. And Madam President, for the record, all members are in attendance this evening with the exception of Councilor Lynch and Tram. I take that back. Ms. Trammell is here, except for Councilor Lynch. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's proceed with the docket review.
Starting with the consent agenda, item number 1, ordinance 2024-312. Planning Commission recommended that this paper be approved with an amendment. So this paper is scheduled to be amended later this evening and then continue to the September 8th council meeting. Items 2 and 3, ordinance 2025-014 and 025. Planning Commission recommended a continuance, so both items will be continued to the September 8th council meeting. Item 4, ordinance 2025-046. This paper was continued at the June 23rd council meeting, and per the Ms. Gibson's request, this paper is to be continued to the September 8th council meeting. This is a change from your docket. So item 4, ordinance 2025-046 will be continued to the September 8th council meeting. Item 5, ordinance 2025-079, Planning Commission recommended approval with an amendment. However, this paper is to just be continued to the September 8th council meeting per the applicant's request. Item 6, ordinance 2025-080. This paper was amended at the June 23rd council meeting, and per Ms. Gibson's request, this paper is to be continued to the September 8th council meeting. This is a change from your docket that you currently have. So item 6, 2025-080 will be continued to the September 8th council meeting. Items 7 and 8, ordinance 2025-081 and 2025-113. Planning Commission recommended a continuance, so both papers are to be continued to the September 8th council meeting. Item 9, ordinance 2025-120. This paper was amended at the special meeting of council. This paper is currently being retained on this evening's consent agenda. Item 10, ordinance 2025-136, Governmental Operations Standing Committee recommended approval. However, this paper is scheduled to be amended later this evening and then continue to the September 8th council meeting. Item 11, 2025-138. This paper was amended at the July 7th special council meeting. Is currently being retained on this evening's consent agenda.
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes, I'm not interested in moving this paper from the consent agenda, but I do have some questions as it relates to the number of positions, and a little bit more information. I tried to talk to HR today. I wasn't able to get a contact.
Yes. Ms. Albert. As the chief. Councilmember Robertson, you said you just would like additional information. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
You would like additional information
Yes.
relative to the amendment?
Yeah, to the amendment, yes, and some more information on the positions that are identified in the paper.
Okay. So Ms. Abubakar,
So,
or?
I mean, if we get started, maybe if I could get a better understanding
Sure.
of the amendment and the conditions of waivers.
Sure. Ms. Abubakar, yes.
Madam President, are we ready to move on? Is it item number 11 or item number 10? We were done with item number 10 and we're going on to item number 11? Or are we referring to item number 11?
This is item number 11 that Councilmember Robertson,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's correct. Item number 11, ordinance 2025-138, paper was amended at the special meeting of council and is currently being retained on the consent. Is that correct?
that is correct at this point, Madam Clerk, yes.
Okay.
But Councilmember Robertson just had a question about the amendment.
All right. Items number 12 through 17, ordinance 2025-144.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to get the questions answered prior to moving to the next, if possible, Ms. Abubakar and/or staff. Ms. Roberts?
It would be helpful to know the exact questions that are being asked.
So,
The number of positions.
Madam Chair, is that what you're asking me to do? So I would like to know the provisions for a waiver for this paper. I understand that's the amendment. Is that correct? Is that clear? We need other information.
The provisions for the waivers are at the discretion of the body that manages that position. So in the case of positions that report directly to the CAO and/or the mayor have waiver capabilities, and any positions that report to city council we will have waiver capabilities. And there's a reporting mechanism for the number of waivers issued. There is.
And are there conditions that has to be met in order for those persons that have the authority to do the waiver to meet?
It is at the discretion of the persons who have the ability to do the waiver.
Thank you, Councilmember Abubakar. Madam Clerk, next item.
All right, items number 12 through 17, ordinance 2025-144, 145, 146, 147, 148, and 149. Planning Commission recommended approval of all 6 papers. Item 18, ordinance 2025-150, Planning Commission recommended a continuance, so this item is to be continued to the September 8th council meeting. Items 19 through 22, ordinance 2025-151, 152, 153, and 154, Planning Commission recommended approval. Item 23, ordinance 2025-155, Planning Commission recommended approval with an amendment. So this paper is scheduled to be amended later this evening and then continue to the September 8th council meeting. Item 24, ordinance 2025-156, Planning Commission recommended approval. Item 25, ordinance 2025-157, Planning Commission recommended approval with an amendment. So this paper is scheduled to be amended and then continue to the September 8th council meeting.
Vice President Jordan.
Yes, thank you, President Newbell. So for this particular paper, it was forwarded out of planning with recommendation for approval, and it had an amendment that was attached and suggested by administration, which really isn't substantive to the goal of this paper, which is to help us better define where it is appropriate for new vape shops to open. The amendment that was voted on and carried forward has to do with making sure that if we are referencing state code, that we would print out the state code that is such referenced. I've had a conversation with administration about adding that later so that we can go ahead and vote on this tonight, because it feels like every week new vape shops are opening, and we've got several to a block now around around the city. So when we get to the motion to amend it, I will be not making that a motion, so the motion dies, so that we can then vote on it. And we'll work with administration to bring that amendment forward later, just so we can go ahead and get this paper moved on. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Vice President. Madam Clerk, let's proceed.
Items 26 through 28, ordinance 2025-158, 159, and 160, Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee, recommended approval. Item 29, ordinance 2025-162, Planning Commission, recommended approval. Item 30, ordinance 2025-163, Education and Human Services Standing Committee, recommended approval. Item 31, ordinance 2025-164, Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee, recommended approval. Item 32, ordinance 2025-165, Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee, recommended approval. Item 33, resolution 2025-R020, Organization Development Standing Committee, recommended a continuance. So this item is to be continued to the September 8th council meeting. Item 34, resolution 2025-R030, Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee, recommended approval. Item 35, resolution 2025-R031, Governmental Operations Standing Committee, recommended approval. Item 36, resolution 2025-R032, Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee, recommended approval. On the regular agenda, we have item 37, ordinance 2024-187. This paper was continued from the June 9th council meeting. It's currently being retained on this evening's regular agenda. Item 38, ordinance 2025-100, Finance and Economic Development Standing Committee, recommended a continuance. So this item is to be continued to the September 22nd council meeting. And lastly, item 39, ordinance 2025-161, Land Use, Housing, and Transportation Standing Committee, recommended a continuance. So this item is to be continued to the September 22nd council meeting. And Madam President, those are all the items on this evening's docket.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item will be update by our Mayor Abula.
Good afternoon, President Newbill, Vice President Jordan, members of council. Good to see y'all. I wanted to just provide a check-in on progress. We're a little over 6 months in since starting this job, and just wanted to kind of share a little bit of a look back and a little bit of a look ahead. I think I've shared with you all before, so much of my approach to this job is, has been informed by my training as a physician, right? I mean, it's this sort of idea of assessing and diagnosing and treating. And that has certainly been the case in these first 6 months here in City Hall. And I want to acknowledge that Richmond has been on a remarkable trajectory over the last decade, right? Like, we are just growing incredibly as a city, and that is in large part due to the work of many of the folks sitting around this dais right now. We've had great leadership, we've had great energy, and we have been recognized in lots of different ways, right? We're best town to visit by CNN last year, best food city, best beer city, top 5 hottest real estate markets right now. Millennials are moving here in droves. But I think you all will agree that there's much more work to be done, and that's what we are all rolling up our sleeves to do. And I think particularly what I heard on the campaign trail, what many of you have shared with me, and what I've experienced in these last 6 months has been that the work of improving our city hall operation, of actually like improving the effectiveness of the delivery of government services, improving our communication with residents, making sure that people feel like they know what's going on in their city government. And making sure that we are improving our investment in our city, our revenue streams, because we are going to continue to grow, and we got to make sure that we are stewarding that well, investing in infrastructure, and making sure that we have the resources needed to be able to plan and provide the level of service that our growing city needs. And to do that, we need to have the right people on the bus, right? The right people in the right seats to drive this change agenda forward. And so I've been really focused in these first 6 months on building the team. And I love this picture from Odie's first day. Mr. Donald, our new CAO, who you all have met, started July 9th. This was me introducing him to all of the directors on his first day. And I'll just remind you that part of what I was so excited about and continue to be excited about in Mr. Donald being here in this role has been his extensive experience leading cities, like leading municipal governments, South Fulton, Athens, Georgia, Atlanta, and not only being the chief executive as city manager in South Fulton and Athens, but also having worked in two strong mayor systems in DC and Atlanta and really understanding the dynamics of both an operationally focused role and being savvy enough to work in really political roles. And just as important as his experience in those realms to me has been his values, the person that he is, his values around transparency, around accountability, around love of service. These are shared values for he and I and for so many of the leaders that are here in the city that are part of our team. And, you know, Odie's role as CAO is really to drive the day-to-day management of our city government operation. And he has already stepped into that. It's been 2.5 weeks, and it's been remarkable to see the ways that he has just immediately connected with our team, identified challenges and areas of focus for our operation. And then I, as mayor of the city, will continue to serve as a public face of the city and really focus on the engagement part with our community, our regional partners, our state partners. And obviously, Odie and I will both be always available to you all as partners in this work. In that building the theme concept over the last 6 months, in addition to our CAO, we've also added 2 new deputy chief administrative officers. One who's here with us today, Amy Popovich over Human Services, and Tanika Jackson, who will be coming in the weeks to come. We have also appointed new directors for communications, Department of Public Utilities, Economic Development, Housing and Community Development, and finance. And so we really have been about building the right team, finding the right talent, building the core to drive government services forward. We've established a new Office of Gun Violence Prevention and hired our director, Greg Hopkins, who started on June 30th. And we'll have some upcoming announcements in the next few weeks about intergovernmental affairs and a transformation manager. So I'm super excited that Mr. Donald is here, that he will continue to grow this team. And I'm excited to watch the mantra that he always says is people first, people always. And I'm excited to see that mantra and those values permeate our organization. During that time, there's been a lot of turnover, plugging in, people filling active roles or acting roles. And I just want to extend my thanks, certainly to Sharon Ebert, who served as our acting CAO, but to so many others who have shown flexibility in stepping into roles as we pull this team together. Next, I want to talk about assessing our organization. Sorry, I'll come back to this real quick. A lot of the work of the first 6 months has been doing that assessment work, trying to figure out what are the challenges, what are the strengths, where are the opportunities. I've done that through a number of departmental visits, talking to folks on the front lines. We have started our all hands meeting on a biannual rhythm. So we had our first at the end of February, and we'll do that twice a year, an opportunity for me and other city leadership to really reach out directly to all of our staff and for them to hear from from my mouth what our priorities are and what we're focused on. We've also done our initial employee engagement survey. And so we're in the process of getting those results back, and we'll certainly share those with our team and then share them with you all as well as we process those. And then as a result of our early water crisis, we completed our incident response assessment. That led to a much more thorough evaluation of our crisis response, our emergency preparedness, and our operational resilience in the event of disasters. And so we've already started to implement some of those recommendations. We did a tabletop exercise with our directors, really exercising our COOP plans. Emergency communications, we've made some advancements in, including Richmond Ready and growing the membership of that, and really due to many of your advocacy, deploying wireless emergency alerts and writing new policies around that. We have also really focused in that assessment period on the reality that many of our departments need to grow in their ability to grow their kind of organizational muscle around managing to outcomes and using performance metrics to ensure that we are accountable to you all as City Council and accountable to the public that we serve. And so, I shared early on our 7 pillars, our MAP, our mayoral action plan. And so what we've been doing over the last few months has been building out this action plan around these 7 pillars and making sure that they were actually tied to specific goals with specific metrics. And so it has been a tremendous amount of work to work with all of our agency heads to help them align to the mayoral action plan, to identify what are the outcomes that we want to be pursuing, what key performance indicators do we need to identify, what data do we need to make sure we are able to collect. And so later this summer, we will share our formal mayoral action plan that compiles all of these key goals and metrics, establishes baselines, and starts to create targets for progress. And we welcome accountability and engagement with this plan. And in the fall, we're going to launch some public dashboards because I think it's really important for the residents of our city to have a sense of what's important to us and what our priorities are, and to see how their tax dollars are being invested and the progress that their city government is making with those investments. We also, in the assessment period, have really identified a customer service focus. Again, Odie's mantra, people first, people always. We've seen the expansion of hours in our 311 service, right? We've added evening and weekend hours. We launched our first City Hall newsletter. Hey, Richmond, hopefully you all saw it. We got tons of really positive feedback from residents all over the city who were excited to see us, doing a public-facing newsletter. Rolling out of RVA Pay, an easier way for people and businesses to pay their bills. Obviously, some kinks in the early launch, but I think it's really important that we do those things, that we launch and iterate, that we cyclically improve the services that we're providing, and I think RVA Pay is a great example of that. We've got some upcoming improvements to City Hall accessibility. I've heard a lot of folks and experienced myself early on just the challenge of actually getting into the building, whether it was signage, whether it was security protocols. And so we are redesigning that, and we'll really focus on much more inviting and welcoming accessibility to our City Hall. And then later this summer, we will roll out our one-stop for permitting. And so there's a lot of really exciting work that's really focused on what do customers want and need from us? What is the customer journey that they've been on? And how do we make the delivery of services work better for them? Looking ahead, and I think, you've heard me say this a lot, I bring this mentality of, well, we're going to look for it, we're going to find it, and we're going to fix it. And so that has really, kind of been the way that we've approached a lot of the assessment of government services. I meet regularly with our city auditor and have really encouraged a culture of cooperation with our auditor and our audit processes. And I'll just give a few examples of what we've been working on in this space. Obviously, the P-card program is one of those big examples. In response to the auditor's findings back in late March, early April, we decided to hit pause and do a reset on the P-card process, reduce the number of cards from 320 to 67. 2027. And then we've been in the process of reviewing and revamping all of our policies, our procedures, and our trainings, aligning with national best practices there. Second, the finance department. I've been to many of your community meetings. I've heard a lot of the feedback from constituents about the challenges they faced with faulty bills or checks written to the wrong people. And so we have really, started to focus on rebuilding our finance department. So as I mentioned earlier, new leadership there, a new director of finance coming in, a new deputy chief administrative officer for finance and administration. We're beginning work to assess our organizational structure, our systems and processes. And so we should see very quickly some improvements in what are, the services that our finance department is providing. The non-departmental process. This came up during the budget. It came up through some of the work of our audit team. But the non-departmental process, we are actively working through a draft of a complete redesign of how this money will be distributed and how it'll integrate into the budget process. We'll have that ready for you in the next few weeks. And so look forward to definitely having a more engaged conversation about how we do non-departmental for this upcoming budget year. And then budget is a really important place of focus for us, right? I mean, I think we all, especially the ones new to this process, kind of all experience the wrestling of doing a budget on a compressed time frame. And so I want to thank Councilwoman Robertson and Jordan for leading the task force that's redesigning how we're going to approach the budget process. Make sure we get that right. And I think that's going to include a lot more advanced planning, a lot more thoughtful community engagement, and a timeline that really serves your all's needs in being able to get the back and forth that we and our constituents really deserve around budget development. And I think probably the biggest example of finding it and fixing it, we didn't have to look very hard for this one, but was the water crisis, right? I mean, it was identifying an operational issue that we had to invest a ton of time, energy, and resource into to improve that. And so we very quickly hired a DPU director, and Dr. Scott Morris, who you've heard from a lot, who has led systems level changes and who has hired the right leaders to implement that, right? He has hired 5 professional engineers, including himself. We've completely turned over the executive leadership of the Department of Public Utilities, over 140 years of combined experience on that leadership team now. And I think, water has been a defining challenge for our administration's first 6 months. And so, we've done updates along the way. You guys have heard a lot from me about the progress we've made. I think just know that between leadership, culture, and then really focusing on the daily operations, right? Like having somebody on site, right? One of Scott's deputies actually works at the water treatment plant and has direct eyes on that operation. We've worked closely with the Virginia Department of Health after doing our after-action assessment, after having the state do theirs. And as of July 7th, Public Utilities is reporting that we've completed 80% of the actions that were on the consent order from the Virginia Department of Health. We continue to do the work to strengthen operations and balance that focus between current investments in operations, but also doing the long-term improvement work. And part of that, as you all are well aware, has been inviting regional input and regional collaboration into that, since our water work serves surrounding counties. And so what has happened since we last discussed this in July, we have Scott and Mr. Donald, who are working on and both evaluating and presenting some different scenarios, as we've previously discussed. We'll make sure that we have the right financial input, expertise, and the right legal input on those scenarios, and we'll present those to you all shortly. We are moving forward with the staff meeting with their regional counterparts for increased communication, better planning of what might happen when there is a low pressure moment in the system, and how do the regions work together, shift water to serve the needs of the entire region. And so we actually have a tabletop exercise that's scheduled on August 25th, and then the work group will be getting together on August 18th to do the next round of planning on capital improvement plan. So, I think all of that is, sorry, I think we had a water slide. But yeah, all of that is just a quick recap of what we've been up to. I think, again, hopefully the big takeaways for you this has been a period of assessment, and it's been a period of really finding the right people, making sure that we have the right team to carry the work forward. And I'm really, really excited and looking forward to how we now accelerate the work that some of those key players are in place. Happy to take any questions that you all might have.
Mayor, I want to say thank you. Been busy.
Sure have.
Thank you for the updates and the progress in terms of staff hiring. Certainly welcome. I think our CAO, Mr. Odie Donald, aboard, and the other staffers. Really appreciate your working with audit and working to address the items that they identified across categories, and really look forward to continued progress in really coming up with strategies to really make sure that we're not back in that situation. And certainly in terms of finance, thank you. I am absolutely appreciative of the work that you're doing. As I said, you had quite an onboarding, but the progress to date is phenomenal. But we still have a ways to go. So I thank you for what you have done in recognition of the fact that we still have challenges before us, that you are, again, amassing the staff that will ensure that we have the expertise we need to address and move forward. So thank you. I'd like to, some members, Councilmember Trammell.
Mayor, I just want to say thank you for coming before us today to give us this update. And I really, really appreciate that. And also, I want you to know that you have some hell of a good employees working for you. I mean, from the bottom all the way to the top, from Public Works, Public Utilities, because I know that people would not want to do their job when it's 110 degrees outside and feels like 120. But they need to be commended for their hard work and for all that they do. And, the ones that it's always at the top that, that needs, they need to be praised too. And also, I'm still very, very upset about what happened to somebody that had been here 19 years. He was my heart and soul. He did everything for us when it came to the storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, and he was just let go. And I have spoken with him, and it just broke my heart. And I don't think in my heart you would have allowed that to happen if you'd known. And I know that our CAO was not here, and I couldn't understand why would you do that to someone when you don't even have the CAO here to make that decision. And I know Sabrina was not here either. She had already left. But I just want you to know that that has really bothered me. And for me not to say something, I think I did try to come to you to let you know how, which I'm glad you didn't take my call because I was very, very upset, very upset. But because to me, to know somebody 19 years, I've been doing this 25 years, and to have somebody walked out like that, that was not right, not right.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Mr. Rimmel. Change is certainly hard, but I absolutely echo, your comments that we can't do anything without a great team, right? We need great people on the front line. We need to figure out how to support them, how to recruit them, how to keep them, and so that will be the continued focus of Mr. Donald in his role as CAO, and making sure that we've got the right people on the bus. Absolutely.
Well, that decision should not have been made without him being here to know the person, or at least to look into it and find out why and how and who made that decision. And that's why I called you to let you know that this was wrong, so wrong. But anyway, I know that when you and I meet again, and I know that I didn't even know Odie was here, but I have spoken to him, and I told him I did not think it was right that somebody would make a decision without letting him come here to get to the bottom or to even find out, especially when you've never been to the office, never been written up. But thank you for all that. Thank you for coming here today, listening and taking my call and my letting me speak to you directly. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Lynch.
So I just want to say thank you for coming to the council meetings. It's so nice to have you participate and be a part of the community group project that is City Council. So I think it was an indicator. Several of us got media inquiries today asking, "What's the big announcement coming?" And as it turns out, you just wanted to come and give us an update. So that just tells you our historical kind of lack of connective tissue between the mayor's attendance at city council and how you're rolling, which is, being here with us, and we really appreciate that. I also want to give a huge shout out to the collaboration on some of the important projects that our committees are undergoing in collaboration with you all. I think we got some really exciting work happening across all of our committees: finance, public safety, EHS, land use, GovOps. I mean, it is a really cool thing to see, some of the things I speak from EHS, non-departmental, moving along, collaborating on that. Certainly getting the paper that's on our docket tonight, getting the transfer of funds over to Caritas so that we have our expanded inclement weather shelter in place and plans ready to go prior to October and November. That's a huge achievement and really good for the people, and so many other good things that are happening across our through the work of our committees in collaboration with you all. So I think that's another really bright spot of partnership that we've got going. But just appreciate you and the team who remains and who sits, it works alongside you. They're amazing. And we can't say enough about the oftentimes very thankless, unseen work that they do. So we appreciate you all as well.
Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mayor Vula. I have a question and then a couple thoughts I wanted to share. The question is regarding the employee survey. I'm appreciative that this is moving forward, and I remember that about a year ago, Mayor Stoney did an employee survey, and there was question about the methodology. I think that they had in the first survey that was done in 2017, all employees were surveyed, and then the subsequent survey that was done in 2024, only directors were included. And so I was hoping you could share a little bit about the methodology being used. I really think that the insights that we will hear from employees is important, and that's how we improve. And so I'm eager to hear that. And then a few other thoughts I wanted to share as we are moving forward and talking about the water system in particular. I just wanted to reinforce my hope that, speaking of employees, that we include union representation on the discussions that you have as you come back with thoughts in terms of next steps there. And then also that we include information about the projections in terms of water use that we're seeing both as a city and as a region. I've made repeated comments regarding the impact of water usage because of the increased number of data centers that we're seeing in Virginia in particular. And on a related note, related being the environment, I think the thing that's top of mind for many folks, particularly in my district, but I think everywhere in Central Virginia, if you didn't leave town, you've been experiencing scary storms with increased frequency. And as I have trying to make sense of this, I understand that Central Virginia is an area where because of climate warming, this was predicted that we would be seeing because of the warming climate, more hurricane type winds in the region. And so given that we are all, we're seeing growth in the city right now, as you marked in your comments, but also we are talking about increasing density. I think that it's really critical that we consider the environmental impact on that, in terms of increasing density moving forward. But also, I want to make sure that we're being proactive in terms of how we are making sure that residents are safe. Because, I mean, giant trees are going down. This is serious, and it doesn't seem like this is just some sort of fluke. This isn't going to go away. So, we've got a lot of old historic buildings that existed before building codes changed to account for stronger winds. So, I would really love to hear, or I hope to hear more about what the city is doing to be proactive in a climate that is likely to see unfortunately, more wind damage over time. Thank you.
Great comments. Absolutely agree. And I think we can, on the two latter issues, certainly can involve the union voice in our water conversations and projections and scenario planning. And yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think, Laura, well, her Office of Sustainability is, a very important investment of time and expertise here at the city, and she's very involved in a lot of our planning efforts. So, but yeah, we can do more of that. On the question around employee surveys, I think the 24 survey was director level only. This survey was all employees.
Wonderful.
And so, and our hope is to really do that on a 12 to 18 month interval, so that we can both collect the information, build trust over time, because I think one of the realities that I've recognized over the last few months is that there are very low levels of trust between frontline employees and further up in the organization. And so I think it is going to take leadership earnestly responding to what comes out of these surveys, showing the organization how we're taking their input and how we're putting that into action, and then being feeling the impact of that before we see more and more engagement and more improved morale. And so that's the hope, is that we're doing these on an annual or so basis, and in between we are using the input from these to actually drive our action planning around what additional training is needed. And so we're kind of at the stage where we're collecting the results of this first round. Again, we'll share that first with the staff. We'll then share it with you all as well, and make sure that that's driving our priorities internally in the organization.
And are the questions the same as some of the questions that were asked in the original 2017 survey?
That I don't know. There were different groups. I think that 2017 survey was done by the performance management group at VCU. This one was done by SIR. But both of them are there's deep experience in employee engagement. There's probably a fair amount of overlap. So I did not ask that question specifically to see what could we track in terms of, how what kind of progress have we made in the last 8 years. But the check-ins that we do moving forward, we'll use this as a baseline. There'll be a high level of consistency year to year. Wonderful. On the surveys that we do.
Thank you. Mayor, again, I want to say thank you. Really appreciate your leadership in acknowledging and addressing the challenges before our city, but also absolute clarity about the opportunities, and look forward to our continued work, both council and administration, towards that end. So, Councilmember Vice President Jordan has one item she wants to also
Thank you
address.
so much, and echo everything that's been said already by my colleagues. And just want to say, really appreciate the administration's involvement in our budget conversations for how we can build a better process together. And Councilmember Robertson has really been deeply involved in that. And I think, we're really starting to click on some of the important questions, because I think we all have a vested interest in wanting this year to go smoothly. And there are some tangible places that I think we can see progress. So just, again, appreciate the willingness of your staff to be involved in that conversation. Super excited about CAO Donald and his experience that he's bringing, and our new finance director. So new voices, I think we'll see a renewed process of collaboration, and I just wanted to thank everyone who on our side of the table and yours is helping get us there. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go in closed session.
I move that the city council go into a closed meeting pursuant to subdivision A7 and A29 of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act to, one, consult with the legal counsel concerning probable litigation because consultation in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the city, and two, discuss the award of a contract or contracts involving the expenditure of public funds relating to state lobbying and legislative services and the terms and scope of each of such contract or contracts because discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the city.
Mr. Breton, will you second that motion?
I second that motion.
Council is now voting on the motion to enter into a closed meeting. Mr. Breton,
Aye.
Ms. Gibson,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Trammell,
Aye.
Ms. Abubakar,
Aye.
Vice President Jordan,
Aye.
and President Newbill.
Aye.
That motion has been approved and the closed session will be held in the second floor large conference room.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Um, Madam President, can I make a motion to leave closed session?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If Council Vice President Jordan has made the motion to exit closed session, if we can proceed.
Mr. Bratton, will you second that motion?
I second.
Council is now voting on the motion to open it to open session. Mr. Bratton.
Aye.
Ms. Gibson.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Robertson. Vice President Jordan.
Aye.
And President Newbill.
Aye.
The council hereby certifies to the best of each member's knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in a closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening a closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by council. Mr. Bratton.
Aye.
Ms. Gibson.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Robertson.
Aye.
Ms. Lynch. Vice President Jordan.
Aye.
And President Newbill.
Aye.
And Madam President, that is all the items that were on this evening's informal agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The informal agenda and the informal meeting of the Richmond City Council is complete, so we stand adjourned.